You need your fabric, your bra cup, your tape rule, and pattern paper. To start with, you are going to measure our shoulder measurement, and that is 7.5 inches. After measuring the 7.5 inches, you are going to measure 3 inches on that same neckline. Then around that point where you measured 7.5 inches, you are going to come down by at most 1 inch. Then you connect the 3 inches with that in a straight line. After connecting it in a straight line, then you're going to measure your vertical measurements. Starting with your bust point, you measure the bust point, the under bust, and your waistline. Then I'm going to add like about 1.5 inch to the measurement, and that's because I'm joining it with a skirt to make a gown. But I just say let me show you guys how to make a corset the easiest way. Now I'm connecting all these lines together. The next thing to do is to come up by 1.5 inch on your bust point and make a straight line there. That is going to form your chest line. After that, make a line to connect your shoulder down to the chest line. Then at the midpoint of that line, you are going to come in by 0.5 inch. After coming in by 0.5 inch, you are going to measure on your chest line. You are going to measure your bust point, your bust measurements rather. My bust measurements, the bust measurements we are using is 8.5. Then we are going to add like 1.5 inch seam allowance. Then you are going to connect those points together using your armhole curve. Kindly disregard this other line because I actually made a mistake when I was connecting it. So you blend it together. Then on your waistline, you are going to measure your darts, and that is your nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2 plus 0.5 inch. The nipple to nipple measurement we are using is 3.5, like 7 divided by 2, 3.5 plus 0.5 inch. That makes it 4. So you are going to make that on the under bust, on the waistline, and on that allowance that I added rather. Then you come in on both sides by 0.5 inch, both on your waistline and on that seam allowance. From the waistline to your under bust, you join it to that straight line that you made in the middle, and you have successfully formed your darts. So we won't be confused labeling the lines. So on your bust point, you are going to come in by 0.5 inch. Then repeat the same measurements on your waistline or your under bust and connect it together with a straight line. Now it's time to draw out our cup. So you place your bra cup on your measurements, and how you are going to do that is that you are going to make sure that the side is touching that line that you made, that 0.5 inch that you made. Then it is sitting right on your under bust, and while you are drawing it and you trace it out, and while you are tracing it out, please be careful because it's always shifting, so you have to hold it firm so it will not shift. So after drawing out the cup, this is what we have. So I'm just trying to like blend it together to meet the armhole. So you just blend it to the armhole like the way I did. Then now we are going to measure all our horizontal measurements. I'm going to measure the bust measurements and the waist measurements. We are practically done with our corsets. While measuring out your waist measurement, for this tutorial, the measurement you are using is 6.5 for the waist measurement. And remember, we deducted 1 inch for the dart that we made, so we are going to add it, so it's going to make it 7.5. Then 1.5 seam allowance, making it 9 inches. So you are going to repeat the same measurements on the seam allowance you added. Then you just connect it together with a ruler. So it's time to cut out our measurements. We are done, so we are cutting it out now. So this is the front pattern. Remember that it's unfold, so I'm going to unfold it, and this is how it looks. This is how it will look like on both sides. So now it's time for us to cut out our back panel. So for our back panel, I've already measured out the zipper allowance. Then on that zipper allowance, I'm going to place my front panel on it. Place it right. Let it be aligning properly with each other. If it's shaking, you can hold it together with a masking tape. So make sure you hold it firmly together so you not make any mistake, and one will not be longer than the other. So after aligning it, I'm tracing out the measurements on the back panel. This is actually the easiest way to cut out your back panel. So I'm just tracing out what I measured on my front panel. So after tracing it out, you blend it together where you need to blend. Then you are going to form your darts. Measure 4 inches. Remember the 4 inches we used for the front panel, we are using the same for the back panel. Then measure 4 inches on the waist and on the neckline, and connect it with a straight ruler. Then come in on both sides by 1/2 inch and connect it to that straight line on your neckline. So basically we are done cutting out. We are done drafting out our pattern paper. So the next thing is to cut it out as well. So after cutting it out, this is what we have as our back panel, and that is our front panel. So we are done drafting the pattern. In the next tutorial, we are going to transfer the pattern to our fabric. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you in the next one.